Hello and welcome to another episode of Finnish Tales of Integration at the University of Turku, a podcast by international student ambassadors. I am Mohammed Junaid, a master's student in health technology and international student ambassador at University of Turku and a host for today's episode. In this series, we're here to guide you through the ins and outs of life in Finland and help you navigate your journey of integration at the University of Turku. From practical tips to sharing personal experiences, we'll provide you with the insights you need to make your transition as smooth as possible. In today's episode, we will be discussing supporting student integration and International House Turku's role in Finnish society with our special guest, Jonathan Murphy, who is working as project coordinator at International House Turku. And we also have Perri, who is project architect at Ark Brut Oy and has personally benefited from the services of International House Turku. So without any further ado, let's get started. So Jonathan, can you please tell our viewers what International House Turku actually is?
Big question to start off with. Hi, well, great to be here. Thanks for having me. So yes, International House Turku, for those that don't know, is the city of Turku's kind of official advice point for all international residents of Turku and the broader southwest Finland. So we opened our doors in 2021, and at that stage we were kind of an advice centre where people could go to a physical location and receive advice in their native language, as long as their native language was English, Arabic, Russian or Finnish, and then they could receive information and guidance about different aspects of life in Finland. And since that time, we've kind of developed our services, and I would say that now we do a lot of things, and actually most of the multicultural activities from the city of Turku kind of flows under this International House umbrella. So International House Turku can help you if you are a newcomer, it can help you if you're a student, it can help you if you've lived here for 25 years, it can help you if you are a refugee, for example. So we help all internationals that live here. That's the basic answer.
And I will definitely get into the details after that. And now my question is from you, Junior. Can you tell us about your early days when you arrived in Finland? How was it?
Hi everyone, and thank you for having me here. I moved to Turku in 2019, but I actually came the first time as like spouse for visiting, like in 2013. So I was like 6 years in which I came both in summertime and in wintertime. So I just for a short periods of time, I've been around like in Turku, and I've been around like in other places of Finland, like Helsinki, like Satakunta. And so like when I moved here, I was ready. I did know Turku. Then of course it's different like to come for holidays, and it's different to settle yourself. Exactly. But I mean, it was easy somehow. Like things clicked. Like I moved here, and then like my partner, she was starting university, studying in the University of Turku. So like we got, after 2 weeks, our first apartment in the student village, and then I found a job, not directly into my field, but then it was enough like to sustain ourselves. And then I started like a Finnish language course. So like I was pretty busy. Then, of course, it was the turn between 2019 and 2020. So we all know like what happened like in the spring of 2020. Turku was maybe a good place to be here when Corona started, because I mean like the city itself is planned in a way that like you have a lot of space to go around and like still be safe. So like life was going on, like we were seeing a very small amount of people, but that's also the way sometimes things are here. And then like in the first year, then I started like my job in Ark Brut, like as an office architect.
Okay. Well, quite a slow start, but I can see that you're back to the original pace now. So back to you, Jonathan. How does International House Turku assist internationals in finding jobs, especially for both students and their spouses? Because this is kind of the current hot topic. Everyone's looking for jobs.
Yeah.
So we would really like to know your point of view about it.
Sure. It's kind of funny because we developed this service for newcomers at International House Turku, soft landing service. And soft landing is a deliberately vague term because we thought, well, it could cover a variety of different issues. And of course, we also wanted to provide support for people who move here for work, but maybe don't have the other kind of aspects of their life just yet. But of course, I actually checked back through our records before coming on here, and I think at least like 70% of the clients that we've met through soft landing, their primary concern has been finding a job. Which is kind of difficult because, I mean, on the one hand, International House, we are not a recruitment service, like we are an advice centre. Of course, we work quite closely with, for example, the TE office, the kind of employment services at the national level in Finland, and we work with the City of Turku's työpiste and their kind of career services, and we work with the university's career services. But we ourselves are more kind of a group of internationals who have found work through our own experiences. And of course, we are generalists as well. So of course, we meet people in lots of different fields, whether it's architecture or pharmaceuticals or IT or things that I don't know so much about. And then you kind of have to give that advice still. That being said, I think what we can do is we can provide kind of a mapping service. So we can explore, like, regardless of what field you're in, how you would start that process. Do you want to register as a job seeker? If yes, like, even are you allowed to? And if you are allowed to, what implications does that have? What does that commit you to? How will you get to, like, say, a language class from that? If you can't register as a job seeker, which most students can't if they're in full-time education, they normally can't get that support from the TE office, then maybe, well, what does the university have to offer? What do NGOs have to offer? What do national level services like Talent Boost have to offer? So on the one hand, of course, we do have our own advice that we can offer, and I am very open about my own experiences and my own journey. And, well, like you, Junior, I kind of had a job. My first job here was not really in my field, and maybe it was slightly below my education level or a slightly lower salary to what I was working in my home country. But I kind of used that as a stepping stone, and, I share my journey about how I took one step backwards, two steps forwards. But we can also, beyond our own experiences, I think what we do nicely is that we introduce our clients, especially students who are maybe in that university bubble and are not so familiar with the wider kind of life in Turku and Southwest Finland. We can then introduce them to other services. And hey, have you heard about this? There's actually a jobs fair on tomorrow. There's actually a mentoring program looking for applications over here. There's actually like a community, a drop-in kind of space for people, or like working on their CVs at the same time over here. So that is our kind of pitch to clients, that of course we can't, there's nothing we can really do to directly help you get that job. I'd love to have this kind of list of jobs hidden list of jobs under the table, you pull it out. That's what we don't have. We're working on that. But in the meantime, we treat everyone, we give them the space to explore what they want to do in Finland, and we provide them with the resources that they can do so. And hopefully we can also give some good insights into our experiences of applying, interviews, and finding that pathway.
Thank you so much for this great clarification, because I kind of met some people, and people don't have a clear idea about what International House Turku actually does when they're saying that they can help you find a job. So they actually misunderstand it, like you are going to give them the actual jobs.
Sure.
But that's not the way.
I mean, we do have, of course, colleagues who work with businesses, because again, one of the sticking points is, that we can give all this advice, but of course, if the companies aren't hiring, then that is, I don't want to blame the companies, because we need the companies on side with this project of internationalization. So we actually do have colleagues who work directly with the companies, reach out to them, hey, what are your needs? Because actually, if you need someone, we have a pool of talents, particularly spouses. Of course, graduates are a big part of that, but spouses, I feel, and I moved to Finland as a spouse from my wife, who had a job at the university, so I'm very conscious that there is a pool of highly educated spouses here that the companies just don't know about. So we do also have staff who work on the company side as well, and that's something that we would like to develop going forward in 2025. So.
And I really appreciate the loophole that you found. Like many talented spouses, they come to Finland, and yet the companies don't know about them, and that's, I think, a very crucial point there that you're kind of currently addressing. So, Junior, could you share your personal experience or a success story about finding employment for yourself or a family member with International House Turku's help?
I discovered International House way over.
How did you discover International House Turku? And
I'm
through
also
them?
interested in that, actually.
That's
I'm always interested in how
I
people find us.
discovered International House Turku because the language practice, the Finnish speaking language practice on Wednesday afternoon. I wanted to boost a bit my language expressivity, and so I've been going there in late afternoon on Wednesday for the whole spring and the summer as well, because when other opportunities were closed in summer, International House was still open, and that I actually noticed that was the kind of environment I needed, because by the end of the summer, I felt like I was a bit more reliable on my Finnish skills, to just go and chat with people over a cup of coffee, in Finnish. I mean, and actually met Teemu Saarenpää, it's the business advisor of International House recently, and I just went full Finnish, but it wasn't possible if I wouldn't practice at International House in a very relaxed environment, because I've been also to language speaking classes, but it feels like you are in a class. While when you're there in Linnankatu, or even if you go to the library with the Red Cross, the Kielikavila, then you're just having a normal chat, and that's the kind of you can learn.
Yep.
To speak Finnish, and
exactly.
You should do it.
Yep, that's I think more convenient when instead of sitting formally there and trying to learn in a proper class environment, you're just having a chit chat, and that's I think more reliable way of making yourself more proficient at a new language. And
of course,
I would,
if I can add, you
sure.
need to do that. I was able to do that after I've been through almost 2 years of proper language training, because once you have you know a bit about the language, you know a bit about the rules, then you can practice.
Exactly. That I think is a very good point that you have said here, because obviously you need to have some pure good knowledge or expertise on the language, and that's when you can kind of casually talk. So, and how did your job hunting proceeded when you finally came to know about International House Turku, and if you would like to share with the viewers, how is it currently going? And
International House Turku somehow kind of put me in a position in which I need to how to really assess your job hunting. So that somehow you how to present yourself, and to clearly say it's all about the skills that you have, the skill set that you have, and that's a really good point that I also learned from International House. So how to present yourself at the best, and then also International House have coaching services, but this autumn had also a pilot group coaching, get hired in 2025, that is gonna continue in the next semester. So there will be a new group, and those kind of activities really makes you understand how you should approach the whole job hunting, and also how you should be strategic, not just sending applications.
Yep.
Because
exactly.
That's the problem, that we are kind of create a lot of noise in the background, because every time if we just send an application, this recruitment agency will receive hundreds of applications, and of course it's about trying to reach also people, trying to work in advance, because remember, once I had a call before sending the application, and then after the call, that was in Finnish also. I decided, well, maybe that's not really my field, because sometimes you feel yourself well, I need a job, and but I think this kind of activities that International House provides, they makes you focus on what you really need to do, and also don't waste your time, but use your time strategically, so that maybe you don't send 100 applications a week, but then you send 4 that are really well crafted.
Yep. And I think it's a very crucial thing, another crucial thing indeed, that you kind of provide the new applicants with the strategy, like how do you actually sell yourself to the companies, because as Junior said, when you just simply put your application to the company, it's just another application to the stack and nothing else. So it's a very good point that you have raised here.
We try and sort of reduce that distance, I guess, because like you said, if you're applying from outside of Finland, and we do work with people who are living outside of Finland, you know, you're a Finnish recruiter and the CV lands on your desk and it's a random person from Italy, you're like, okay, this is in English or like simple Finnish, but it's not that familiar to them. Whereas, you know, I think it was good, Julia, like really nice to hear that you've been kind of enjoying this kind of, I guess, like almost like peer support or community building, which is, I think is very important, because I remember when I was a job seeker, it's like a lonely place. You're just looking at job applications, constantly rereading your own CV so many times that it starts to lose all sense of meaning.
Exactly.
Whereas like some of the events we've been able, when you're like trying to pitch yourself to others, or even just explaining your situation to others, I feel like you're constantly refining how you present yourself and how you pitch yourself and what is the essence of what you can offer.
And also like the office has hundreds of people, and maybe at this moment like even thousands, like but like I really noticed that like Työpiste, like, or at least like when someone from International House was there at Työpiste, like they really gave reachful comments, and like they really speed up the process. And I mean, I'm like next week I'm gonna start like a language course.
Oh, that's great.
And but like when I went there to the school, like there was like Emilia Ketola, like and they met her at Työpiste via International House. She knew me already because we had talked together. So like she also like sent me several other applications. But you need to use these services, go out, reach out to people, be yourself, make yourself visible, and then something will come.
Because at the end of the day, all that matters is how visible you are and how well you're known in the society. So, Jonathan, my next question is, what kind of support International House Turku offer for international students arriving with children, especially in navigating the daycare system?
Sure. Again, a very important point, and as we mentioned, kind of soft landing was designed to cover not just job hunting, but all aspects of life. And I feel like family life, again, well, we didn't have children when we moved here, but now I have 2 small children, so I've been through that kind of family life, and it dominates your whole life, and all your decisions you make, you know, the social life you have, often the job you can take, or it revolves around time frames and what your kids are doing and that responsibility. So for a lot of people, of course, it's a big concern. We, again, of course, we're not an International House, like we are not the early childhood education service ourselves. That is a separate part of the city of Turku, but we know them very well, and we are quite well placed to direct people towards their kind of official service. We have, if you find International House, this is why I was asking you how you heard about us, because actually if you find us before you move to Finland, we have a form on our website called New Home Turku, so you can actually contact us before, and then we can connect you with the education services before you actually arrive. If you know you'll be studying in August and it's currently May, then you can actually start looking into the schools or the daycare from that point. And that puts you at a good advantage, because I think the city's official policy is that ideally they would like the application 3 or 4 months beforehand. Of course, if you just land, and actually most of our clients have just landed that day or that week and thinking, okay, I need school quickly, then of course we can help speed up that process. But again, I don't think my colleagues will be so offended in the wider city if I say that the City of Turku's website can be a little bit difficult to navigate. Actually, we're getting a new website in 2025, which is very, very exciting, because the current one, I think it just has a space on the top just called immigrants. And anything in English kind of goes on this immigrants label, but it's quite hard to find. So again, we can sit down with the client and we can look through the website, and some parts of the website are in Finnish, some parts are in English, but maybe they're hard to understand. So we can kind of help untangle that process and say, okay, well, this is the timeline. Here's, you know, when you could potentially get into a school. And again, one interesting thing with schools and daycares is, and I'm from the UK, so I can empathize with this, is that many people ask us, what's the best school? What's the best daycare? because they come from a culture like the UK where you have rankings, you have league tables, even from kind of primary education, there's often like the best school. And our clients say, well, tell us what the best school is, and then we will find a house near that school, and then we can get in that way. And then you have to say, well, in Finland, it's the other way around. Like you get the house first, and then usually you just go, maybe daycare is a little bit different depending on the language, but for general school, you just go to the nearest school to your house because they're all kind of pretty similar. And that is often kind of an interesting mentality shift for people coming from different cultures. So again, our role is to kind of explain that process and help like guide the customer to the right service, which ultimately would be the kind of official application with the early childhood education services, for example.
Plus the part that you have mentioned, like the city of Turku, they expect applicant to submit the form at least 3 or 4 weeks, a month earlier. So I think it all falls back to the planning. Like you do need to plan earlier, since you know that you're moving to another country. So obviously it's better to plan earlier.
And this is good because my, of course, I'm an alumnus of the University of Turku, and my master's program was the Future Studies here in TSE. So again, we often talk in our, especially the online meetings we have with clients outside of Finland, but even within the kind of in-person soft landing, is this idea of like I said, mapping, scenario planning. Okay, what would happen if you did this? What would happen if you did this? And then we can't tell the client what to do, but we can at least give them 3 or 4 different options or different kind of perspectives on, well, this is maybe this is what would happen if you did this action. So I'm very into that kind of future foresight kind of stuff, and I try and future studies isn't really that practical in many senses, but we can apply it in this case to our work.
And then that can be helpful as well. Like you give a person, like you have these 3 and 4 choices, and you have these outcomes based on each and every choice. So you can just choose it from there, and it's good, I think.
And of course, it's subject to change. I'm not saying that one choice goes exactly the right way, but then at least you are kind of like mentally prepared for, okay, well, this might happen, and if it does happen, it's okay, even if it's not your first choice, maybe.
At least you have a starting point to look at. So, Junior, what would you recommend to other families moving to Finland about utilizing the services of International House Turku?
Well, I mean, when families like move to Finland, and they move all together, like they leave all their networks behind. So like what International House provide and directly is the fact that like International House gather other people, other families. So like if you as a family start going to International House, then you will meet other families, and then you will start rebuilding your own network here. And so somehow via that network you will learn about places to go with your children and activities you can do. You will learn how maybe to fill your daycare application, and also like you will learn about free time activities, because children go to daycare in the morning, but then what about the evening? Like what's like the swimming pool, like which kind of for family swimming, and like maybe musical activities. There are some musical activities that are very expensive. There are other musical activities that are free of charge, and that's is what you learn like if you reach out to other families. And it sounds difficult, like if you are just arrived here, but like actually there are other families, internationals here, so like you are not alone. With the international family.
Exactly.
And well, International House, I think, is the place to go, like if you want to feel yourself part of a community, because there is already like a community, especially like in big cities. I mean, like actually the city of Turku published that like the next year will be like more than 50% of the students in primary school will be like actually with foreign backgrounds. So like...
And the part-time activity that you mentioned, specifically music, that was the one thing through which I got connected with Junior on LinkedIn. If you remember, I texted you on LinkedIn about where can I learn how to play guitar in Turku. So that's how we connected on LinkedIn.
Wow, okay.
So, and then we chatted there, and we decided to meet, but unfortunately we're schedules didn't match. So that's pending, by the way. So do you want to add something?
No, just that it's really nice to hear again that like so much of this kind of talk about like integration and moving somewhere is really wrapped around work, study, family. But of course, as someone speaking like from the city of Turku, you know, integration goes beyond that.
Exactly,
and this idea about hobbies and, you know, this idea about kind of your like social life and your life outside and what defines you beyond just your like work, like that is a huge part. And again, something that unfortunately, at least, you know, when I moved here 7 years ago, maybe wasn't immediately accessible to all internationals. And again, that's what we're trying to do at the International House, like not organise everything ourselves, but kind of give people the resources. And, you know, me and my colleague Rosa, who runs a soft landing service with me, we have like a huge Word document with a million different things on that then we can like provide. We've had all kinds of requests over the years for different kind of hobbies. And again, maybe like with the kids stuff, a lot of the websites are in Finnish. So you think, okay, well, that's not for me. But then when you actually attend or you send an email, it's like, yes, of course, like kids are welcome and we'll adapt. And most of those kind of, you know, people working with children in those hobbies are very welcoming. So, you know, it's about being brave and knowing where that you can kind of attend, I suppose.
And I think integration at the end of the day is somehow related to networking. Like with networking, you can that will eventually lead you towards integrating in the society. So you have kind of raised a very good point here. Like it's not just related to studies, work, or part-time activities. It has a lot of things in it. So which definitely we cannot cover in a limited time span. So,
Sure.
Jonathan, what language learning resources does IST provide for internationals, particularly students and their families? Because language learning in Finland is another hot topic here. So
yeah, and I often feel like I'm often kind of going against the grain slightly when it comes to language learning, because of course, generally the you know, the main idea is that like you have to learn Finnish. You must learn Finnish to kind of advance your career. And like, yes, I agree with that to a certain extent. And of course, the language I think really helps. Like any amount of Finnish will always be useful to you. But of course, we've met a lot of people through International House who, depending on the networks they have, depending on the type of career they're into, you know, not all of our clients who successfully found work have had like C1 or C2 level. And it's kind of interesting that some people feel that they can't apply to anything unless they hit C2, but you might never hit C2. It's like, you know, basically kind of fluent. So from my experience, we always talk about like you need enough Finnish to get you through the door. And this is maybe where the spoken language classes or spoken language practice groups have been quite useful, because when I've been speaking to employers, both as a job seeker and then also kind of within my work, often people get more hung up on this A1, A2, B1, B2, but from the employer side, they kind of just want to know if they can speak to you, if they can send you an email, will you understand it? If they can call you quickly for a quick question, will you be able to understand it? I've told this story before, but like my interview for this job was in Finnish, even though the role was for like English language advisor. I think they asked me one question at the end of the interview in English, just to make sure that I could actually speak English. And it was kind of a surreal, because I was trying to explain these concepts in kind of broken Finnish for this. And, you know, I've no doubt that they did not hire me for my Finnish skills, but of course I had enough Finnish skills to get through the application process. Regarding the International House side, I think, again, we have the practice groups, which, like you said, Junior, real life is very different to Suomen Mestari 1. Suomen Mestari 1 is a nice textbook for learning the basics, but...
Well, actually, like my first Finnish teacher, she said like that Suomen Mestari 1 has like too much words in it. So like for the level, it's, the target level, it's already like too complicated. So like actually there are better books. I mean,
yeah, and students as well. You know, if you're doing a master's program here, then you're likely to have this kind of slightly academic mindset, perhaps when it comes to the language, and then you have this result. And maybe I've been in this category previously, that your like comprehension of Finnish and your like written Finnish might be very good, but you won't speak, and you don't want to speak unless it's perfect, you know, the grammatical endings and the cases and the tenses. But that's what Puhutaan Suomea, and also, like you mentioned, the libraries, the Red Cross Cafe at the library, is just to get you through that barrier, to get you actually
and also
speaking.
like if you are not at the level like of speaking already, because you just arrived. I mean, on Tuesday morning, like there is like an online practice. You can fit between your lesson, you can fit between your remote work, and then it's also like mostly about like pronunciation and really like the basics also, like because you're just reading. Then if you can talk, you talk. If not, like you just practice your reading.
And sorry, just one thing that we do like outside of the classes, again, gets back to this like mapping service. So the way that people learn languages is very different. You can't put everyone just in a course for 6 hours a day. Like, people respond to different things. So one of the things, again, that we do with the one-to-one advice is that we talk about, like, what's your schedule like? How do you like to learn the language? And then there is a really good website called Kieli Boosti, which the Finnish government set up a couple of years ago, that I think has like 60 different types of language learning, whether it's an app, whether it's podcasts, whether it's, subtitles, whether it's more formal courses. Because most people, have to kind of somehow schedule in, well, maybe one day I'll go to the spoken language on a Wednesday night, and maybe on like a Saturday morning I'll do 2 hours of the textbook, and maybe on a Monday night I'll watch a film with some friends in like Finnish with the subtitles. So again, we try and help people think about, because Finnish is like, if you're starting the Finnish journey, it's like staring up at a cliff face, like, how am I ever gonna? So we try and like put some handholds in that mountain for you to think about. And of course, then you think about goals, and like the UKI test, of course, is like B1, keskitaso, like medium level is often like a better goal for a newcomer rather than fluency or C2 or something like that. So
I would say that was quite impressive representation of how International House Turku helps with the language learning resources. And there was one other thing that you mentioned. It was related to flexibility in your schedule. Like, you get to decide when do you want to take this course or when do you want to study. And that, I think, is a perfect thing, because then you have all the spare time for that particular course, and you can just dedicate yourself fully towards that course, and through which obviously you'll learn. That will make a difference.
Sure.
So, Junior,
Yes.
how did the language and cultural integration support from International House Turku help you or your family to settle into this Finnish society?
Well, I mean, for me, the language practice has been really good. Also, like, I mean, then I've been trying, thanks to that, like, also to use the services of International House in Finnish, because, I mean, that's also like a natural practice you can do. If you go to Työpiste and then you speak in Finnish, if you go to Teemu for like thinking about like starting your own business, then you speak in Finnish. I mean, these are all kind of things that makes you like, well, I can do it, and that's what it takes, like basically, like, and I think like I mean, like for me, like as a spouse, it's of course like easier somehow, because I mean, nowadays half of my family is Finnish, so I see like myself as an insider, even though like I have to find my own way, because I have to discover places, I have to learn the language, discover stuff, and then somehow like I also think that even if you come as a spouse, but I mean, it's your own journey in Finland. So like language learning helps you to understand where you are, and not always like depends on what the family tells you about. Because I mean, of course, like the reality, it's broader. It's so like family like just give like their own opinion, their own memories. But like I mean, history is another thing.
Yeah, I understand that. So at last, Jonathan, if there's one particular tip that you want to give to the current internationals residing in Turku, or those who are trying to, plan their journey to Finland, so what would that be?
Wow. I think if it was just boiling down to one thing, it would be bold or brave, maybe. Bold kind of gets it, because I think so many, like, when you're in a new country, and this is was kind of what I was saying with the hobbies for the kids as well, but it extends to almost anything. When you're in a new country, the tendency that we have as internationals is to retreat into our shells. Am I allowed to go here? Can someone invite me to here? But really, like, if you want, you have to play an active role, whether it's job seeking, whether it's making friends, whether it's finding hobbies, whether it's like the language. You have to be the one to kind of take ownership of that. Like, International House will give you every platform and support that we can do, but at the end of the day, when we recommend you should go to this networking, you should go to this course, you personally have to be the one to go. And like, I've been to so many things where people are like, who are you? We didn't expect any non-Finnish speakers here, or like, what are you doing here? But that's okay, because then sometimes that works out, and if it doesn't, then you just move on to the next thing. And most Finns have been so welcoming. Like Finland has a reputation for being quite a cold country, like literally and metaphorically. But actually, I find that when you do have that FaceTime and people are like, oh, okay, you know, they're interested in your story and they want to help you. Most of the people in Turku, I found.
Actually, it's very easy to do things here because I mean there are no strong like institution or strong groups. It's very easy to find your way here.
Yep. And I think the Finns, they kind of really appreciate your efforts when you're trying to learn the language or try to speak it. Like I've tried it myself. Like I did Someone Mess 31 recently. So I just, like if I'm at Lidl or some store, I just, whenever I buy the groceries, I just wish a person a good day ahead in Finnish. So I can literally see the big smile on their face, like this person is putting the effort in learning our language, which gives a very positive impression. So if you were to give one tip to new upcoming students or the ones that are currently residing here and still are thinking about getting themselves integrated with the society or still don't have any idea how to find services like International House Turku, what would you suggest, Junior?
Well, the first thing is like go to International House as first as you can. I mean, it took me like 5 years almost like to find International House because
we weren't open for 2 of those years. It's fine.
The first 2 years they weren't open. Like I mean, it would be great like to meet them already in the beginning, but well, reach out these places in which like there are other people gathering already, because then you can enter like in a network bubble somehow, and then from there like you can start expand your network. But then like just enjoy life here, like and I mean there are lots of things that you can do for free. You can, and that's something also good. Like I mean here you can walk around everywhere, you can cycle around everywhere. I started actually cycling like here when I moved here to Finland because it's safe compared to Italy. And at the same time is a way like to discover like the places around, and you can do it for free. Like you just need like a working bicycle, but it's not really expensive. Like but that's something that at least like it creates belonging for you, and that like find like a sport activity, which maybe like you can find also like other people like playing with you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really.
I did actually when I was studying here. Of course, the campus sport service is great, and I just knew that no matter how like stressful or like difficult my week had been, like Friday evenings, futsal, I could just go there 2 hours and forget about kind of everything else. And I think this is also really important to mention in the time of year we are. Like we are now in the middle of Finnish winter. It's dark outside. I mean, Turku's not so bad compared to other parts of Finland, but we don't get a huge amount of sunlight. So you do need to make more of an effort because you just want to kind of curl up and hibernate. But getting out at this point is really good for mental health aside from anything else.
Exactly. And,
We also had, I mean, I'm lucky because we have a dog, so like because of the dog we always to walk. But I mean, like just cover yourself and go to like to the closest forest. I mean, like you also, I mean, in Turku you don't need to go out. Like I mean, there are lovely places. There is Katarina Lake, so like just with the bus you go there, and
it's quite a good blend of rural and urban life. Turku collectively, and there's one thing I would like to add is at least join Pespes Perientais that are arranged by International House Turku, and I would really ask you if you could give a short description about it. What actually is Pespes Perientai and how can a person join it?
Sure. So Pespes Perientai is our international coffee morning for residents, because we felt that so many of our events and workshops have this kind of agenda or like focus on working life or a speaker, but people just wanted more of a social space. So we developed this Friday coffee morning idea in English, which you could drop in every 10 till 12 every Friday, more or less. You should check our website at the time this is released when the next one is. But we have this kind of space where there's no agenda. You just come and have a coffee and say hi. And it's funny that like through that, these more organic conversations appear about people who are there who are starting their own business, people who are thinking about finding a part-time job, people who are, a spouse looking to get on a language course. So these issues are kind of, we don't formally kind of, say this week we will be talking about startups, but people just kind of gravitate towards each other. And it's been really nice. And again, if you are totally stuck and you just don't know where to go or who to speak to, it's again, like you said, low threshold. It's a nice event. And Piispen munkeja are these pink donuts. So you'll see these pink donuts all over Turku, which are like a local delicacy, and I eat like 2 a week, and my cholesterol levels are way too high. So please come to Piispen Perjantai and eat the donuts so I don't have to. That's the pitch.
Yeah. And as being a part of Piispen Perjantai, I can personally tell you that it was quite good to be there. It was quite interactive, and as Jonathan said, we didn't had a particular agenda that we need to follow. It was quite casual discussion, and that's how I met you there, and it was quite good.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we explored how International House Turku supports international students and their families with job assistance, childcare navigation, and language resources. Our guest, Jonathan and Junior, shared insights and personal experiences on integrating into Finnish society with International House Turku's help. So at last, I would like to thank Jonathan and Junior for actually joining us today on this episode. And thank you for tuning into Finnish Tales of Integration at University of Turku. We hope you gained useful insights and feel more prepared for your own integration journey. Remember to mark your calendars for our upcoming event on Ustavan Paiva, which is Friendship Day on 14th of February at TSC Mercatori, a great opportunity to connect with fellow students and share experiences. Until next time, stay engaged, stay connected, and remember, your integration story is our story.